Ms. Todman and Ms. Fernandez, thanks for taking the time to chat yesterday. I enjoyed our conversations. I want to talk a little bit about the down payment assistance in FHA loans. As you know, these loans require minimal down payment generally, but HUD does permit down payment assistance, DPA as it's known, which may let borrowers buy homes with no money down. Now, a down payment requirement is important for many reasons, and that's why there are important restrictions on the source of funds that comprise the down payment. In 2008, Congress updated the law and prevented any part of a down payment for an FHA loan to come from an entity that financially benefits from the transaction. However, HUD's IG has concluded that some DPA programs are still structured in a way that violates the law because the DPA provider is reimbursed for providing the down payment and thereby financially benefits from the transaction. So, Ms. Todman, last week I sent a letter to the HUD secretary and the HUD IG asking them to provide records and to brief my staff to understand why the former HUD deputy secretary chose to disregard the HUD IG's findings. So my question for you this morning is, will you ensure that HUD provides me with this information that I've requested? And will you also review the former deputy secretary's decision and just notify me of the results of your review?
So thank you, Senator, for that question. And I am aware of the concern that you've raised regarding down payment assistance. And I commit to you that if I am confirmed and become Deputy Secretary, I'll be working with the Secretary, the IG, and with career staff to understand some of the underlying issues that you've raised and to ensure that the program is working optimally.
And you'll communicate that to me. This is a reasonable request that I've made as a member of the committee that has jurisdiction and oversight responsibilities.
If I'm Deputy Secretary, I will commit to communicating with you, Senator.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Second topic, HUD's affirmatively furthering fair housing rule. We discussed this a little bit yesterday, and it's my view that the Obama era rule, which was, we'll call it the AFFH, was overly complex, and it placed undue burdens on HUD grant recipients, including cities and public housing agencies. The rule forced HUD grant recipients, in some cases, to hire expensive consultants and to analyze non-housing issues like education and transportation. And as we discussed yesterday, under your leadership, NARO criticized the Obama-era rule for these very reasons. In a 2018 letter about the AFFH rule, NARO wrote that, and I quote, "Housing agencies should be able to complete any required assessments without having to hire a consultant," end quote. The letter went on to say, and I quote, "Housing agencies and other entities should not be forced to complete an analysis on non-housing related topics, e.g. transportation, education, infrastructure, etc., end quote. Now we know HUD is expected to revise the rule, and as HUD works to revise this rule, can you commit to us that you will work to avoid replicating the problems that your organization correctly observed with respect to the Obama era rule?
So, Senator, those comments certainly were made in my capacity as the NARO CEO. If confirmed and I become the Deputy Secretary, my job will be to implement the Fair Housing Act. And of course, affirmatively furthering fair housing is an important and critical component of that act. AFFH is meant to provide data and information so that localities can make strong decisions as related to advancing fair housing for all of the protected classes under the Fair Housing Act. So I will commit to implementing the fair housing law and ensuring that localities have the information, technical assistance, and tools they need.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to point out you were not incorrect when you observed the problems of imposing this extremely expensive burden on the very clients. And so I hope you'll keep that past history in mind. Very quickly, a question for Ms. Fernandez regarding oversight of transit funding. The March 2021 spending bill included a section 3401B7. This is in the ARP bill, and it provides for $2.2 trillion for transit operators that, and I quote, "as a result of COVID-19 requiring additional require additional assistance, end quote. And Ms. Fernandez, I'm just would like for you to commit to ensuring that that $2.2 trillion, in fact, goes as the law requires and does not serve as a general all-purpose subsidy for transit agencies that may have had financial problems that preceded COVID-19.
Senator, thank you very much for that question. And yes, the 2.2 funding is available only if the transit agency demonstrates additional needs over and above what the funding that they have been apportioned, they have received. The Federal Transit Administration has the requisite oversight and administrative processes in place to ensure that those funds, that the application is reviewed. We have a history of reviewing these type of applications. We will handle that additional funding through a notice of funding opportunity. So it's not just through an application and disbursement of a request. So I commit, if confirmed, I commit to ensuring that we consider and that we also provide the oversight that is required for those additional funds.
And I'll finish, Mr. Chairman, but I just want to underscore that the statute requires that the additional need must be a result of COVID-19. So I hope you'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.